Good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Elena Nava with the Tulare County League of Mexican American Women, and we are sitting down today with the mayor of the city of Woodlake, Rudy, Mendoza. Uh, Welcome.
Good morning. I've been called worse, so
Sorry.
no worries.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you that I was first elected to the city council in 2008. So I actually have served 12 years. I've been recently reelected to serve on my fourth term. But I'm originally from Woodlake. I was actually raised and grew up in Woodlake. My parents were farm workers. As a matter of fact, we spent most of our early adolescents working in the fields, picking oranges and grapes and a whole other host of crops along mom and dad. Uh, I actually have stayed pretty much local to the area. I've traveled quite a bit over the years because of my business and moved away a few times, Oregon and Oregon State and Central Coast area, but have always come back to Woodlake, and actually this is what I consider my permanent home. So like I said, I've served on the council for 12 years and have been involved in local politics for a number of years. But I'm happy to be here and look forward to answering your questions. I appreciate you giving me the time to do so.
Definitely. So we do have a couple of questions for you. We've reached out to community members through our social media, and we've also have some questions as a board. I believe Katia has the first question for you.
Thank you for your time, Mayor Mendoza. So my first question is, with various examples around the world on how to recharge our groundwater and remove ourselves from a drought, will we follow suit and join these shining examples?
Well, I'm not sure which examples you're utilizing. There's all sorts of ways to conserve water, and that's probably the biggest thing that we can all do as individuals is be conscious of the fact that it's a precious commodity, right? And so I think the reality of it is that we're all looking for that, silver bullet. And honestly, I think that it's a combination of government working with communities. But let's just start at the beginning really quick and get some background. We live in a state that is just greatly increased its numbers of population just over the last 50 years, and it doesn't seem to be able to slow down here anytime soon. With that, you need infrastructure, and so I think that the role of government is to be able to work with communities to provide infrastructure to store water. And so I give it that, or I will say that here in California, we enjoy one of those climates where when we do have a wet year, we have an ample supply of water. The problem is that we don't do enough to conserve the water that falls out of the sky or that comes down from the hills in the form of snowfall. So that, to me, is probably the biggest thing that is concerning when we see millions of acre feet of water that is being flushed out into the ocean or lost to evaporation, when we should be somehow holding it and saving it for the rest of the year. And so I think going back to shining examples, I think we do need to do better at building infrastructure projects that save water, that conserve water. But as individuals, we need to do our part and be conservative as well. So that means, we shouldn't necessarily be wasting water or over irrigating our property, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a precious commodity, and I think that there's a lot of things that we can do. But definitely, infrastructure is probably a big part.
Thank you. Completely agree. I think that's something that within the valley, that's a very big alarming thing that we do not have a way to collect water as much as other areas in the state. So thank you for your answer. I believe Vanessa has the next question for you.
Good morning, Mayor. The next question I have for you is, how has allowing cannabis to be sold within the city limits helped the city of Woodlake?
Well, again, if you would have asked me when I first got elected if the city of Woodlake would be in the cannabis business, and I would have told you, heck no, it's not something that we're interested in. However, the voters in California saw to it that it became legal for the use of recreational marijuana in the state of California. So we were faced at the time with the decision: do we allow folks to operate in and around the city with different growing operations, basically setting their own set of rules, or do we try to take some form of control by setting rules and regulations to dictate how you do the business of either retail sales or cultivation? So we spent a considerable amount of time in the city of Woodlake, not just us as elected officials, but working with law enforcement, working with the school district, working with people in the community, gaining input for well over a year and a half. And we finally, all of us together, came to the consensus that it made sense that we get into this type of operation, but only if we set certain ground rules. And so in addition to the research that we did, we actually went out and looked at other cities up and down the United States and looked at their successes and their failures. We really focused on where they failed. And some examples that come to mind were the state of Colorado, where they early on had some failures there. Other cities in California that were, handing out certificates and licenses like if they were, candy. And so we decided that we were going to only allow a certain amount of this type of business. We limited it to a number of dispensaries. 2 is our maximum. And we limited it to indoor cultivation only. So as a result of that, if you look at our website, you'll be able to see the documentation that is involved in order for folks to be able to initially submit an application. It's very lengthy, but at the end of the day, and to answer your question, the city of Woodlake has generated revenue through primarily the sales of retail sales and the tax money that comes as a result of that. But we are now just starting to see the indoor cultivation aspect of it, and we won't know for some time what the revenue will be like. However, with that said, we also understand that because there are other communities up and down the state of California, it's not necessarily a windfall. In other words, it's not going to be millions upon millions of dollars of revenue, because we will be in essence competing with other communities for their business. And so the revenue that we do generate, and this again is as a result of that collaborative effort with the community, is we ask the community, if we decide to do this, what do we want to do with the revenue? And so the Citizens Advisory Committee stated that we would use it for parks and recreation, public safety, and parks and roads. And so that money cannot be used for anything else other than those 3 types of things. So if you look at Woodlake, just over the course of the last few years, we have built a number of pocket parks that have benefited our community and our youth. We have also invested quite a bit of that money into sidewalks, streets, and lighting projects, including our main park, Miller Brown Park in downtown. And then we've also been able to focus some of that money into law enforcement, not necessarily for salaries, but for equipment. And so, again, I think it's a beautiful thing when you ask the community, where do you want to use this money? And then you're able to go back and say, this is exactly where we're using the money, where you, the community, wanted it to be spent. And I can tell you, we knock on wood that today we still have never had an issue with any of our cannabis businesses, and we're very, very happy about that. Part of it is also, I think, the community itself, but It's all of the security measures and the protocols and all of the regulations that we put into play, which dictate to those businesses how they operate. So rather lengthy answer, I understand, but I think it's important for us to all understand the background in order to answer this question. But again, if you would have asked me over a decade ago, I would have said, no, we're not going to get into this business, but we're in it now. And I think that the only thing that we can do is to see that it is managed appropriately.
Thank you. So, do you consider hemp under the cannabis law as far as allowing to grow, or is that something that they can do separately? Like, can you have additional hemp growth within Woodlake opposed to two, like more than two for hemp opposed to like marijuana?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I have quickly become an expert. Well, let me rephrase that. I've quickly educated myself on the industry, and I can tell you that probably long term we can look at the hemp operation. However, hemp is going to have to be an outdoor operation, and unfortunately, we just don't have the type of land that would be required for the outdoor cultivation. If you look at the footprint of Woodlake, we're a small community in terms of square footage, square miles, and there's not a lot of land that you would need in terms of the acreage unless we were to annex additional land. And it's not always easy to annex additional land for that purpose, whether it's for hemp or for just growing in the community. But the other thing that I've learned throughout this whole process is that a lot of these indoor cultivation facilities, they can better control the strains and the type of plant that they're growing, the quality per se. So they get a better yield if they can control the climate and they can control the things that affect the growth of the plant, which in turn equates to better revenues. So in short, they make a lot of money by producing a better quality product indoors than they probably would out of hemp. So ultimately, it's whatever the market will bear. If somebody decides to come in, we definitely will take a look at the operation. But the reality of it is, it's not up to us. It's whether or not somebody can find the land necessary to be able to produce the product. And it's in short supply. Land is always in short supply.
Thank you. So for our next question, Katia.
Hello again, Mayor. So the question is, how is the city of Woodlake coping with COVID-19? And are you offering vaccinations within the city limits?
Well, first of all, I think if you look at it, generally speaking, the community of Woodlake is doing very well. We obviously have had a number of folks that have been afflicted by COVID-19. As a matter of fact, I have personally lost friends as a result, and it's not an easy thing. We've lost family members ourselves, the Mendozas, as a result, and it's been a tremendous impact. But it's also important to note that as individuals, we probably have more control over our own health than if we were to rely on the government. So I want to start there by saying that I'm a big believer that number one is that you need to take care of yourself first. And in my line of work, it's one of the things that I always preach to the folks in my industry is that if you don't take care of yourself, nobody's going to do a better job of taking care of you than yourself. And so as the city of Woodlake, we do not offer vaccinations. It's not the cities, it's actually all done through the Department of Health, whether it's the county or the state of California. So in partnership, we actually have partnered with the county health department, and by all means, we've always been very open and easy to deal with when it comes to certain situations, especially something like this, which is a national health crisis. And so we've opened up our facilities as a city in the beginning to be able to provide testing, and we've even gone as far as providing security, through our local law enforcement, and mostly not security because we have concerns about people getting out of hand, but traffic control and that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by security. But now that the county is up and running with the vaccines, we have actually also opened up additional facilities and made it easy for folks to come into town and or come into downtown and take the vaccine. So again, we can cordon off streets, we can open up facilities, we can make sure that they're sanitized and ready to go. But as far as us personally, the city of Woodlake offering vaccines, that's not what we do. That's the county health department, and that's the state health department.
Okay, and do you have vaccines right now? Is the county distributing vaccines right now in Woodlake?
My understanding is the county is, yes.
Okay.
They're still doing a lot of testing as well. So we have publicized a couple of messages through social media. So whenever the county health department puts out information, we do our best, either through social media or we're such a small town that word gets around pretty quick. So it's easy for us to post stuff on Facebook, on our webpage, or as elected officials, we talk to our neighbors constantly. And I'm very fortunate that on my city council, I actually work with a council member who is one of our local mailmen. So, he gets around as well, and it's easy for him to remind people, hey, you should be aware that this is going on. So again, we have a very unique situation in the city of Woodlake in that, we work very well together. There is nothing more important to me or my fellow council members other than just to get the job done. And whether it's communicating issues like this or other things, that's what we focus on. We focus on communicating well, getting the word out. And we also understand that not everybody's going to always be happy or is going to understand the message. There are folks out there that probably are not looking forward to having the vaccine, and we get that, but it's our role, it's our responsibility to communicate, and I think we do a fairly decent job of doing that.
Thank you. So for our next question, we have Vanessa.
How are the schools handling distance learning, and are there enough hotspots provided to families without internet connections, like the families that don't have internet?
So the second part of your question is rather easy. The district does a really good job of providing the internet access. I have 3 kids, 2 of which are adults now, but all 3 of them have gone through the school district. My youngest, Sebastian, our son, is a freshman this year. And, we have had to undergo distance learning with him. And I can tell you that I take my hats off to every single member of Woodlake Unified School District. It is not an easy job. And I can tell you that I've seen my son go through the distance learning. It's taken a bit of time for him to be able to try to learn in that atmosphere. But I also know that for the teachers, the instructors, and the administrators, it has equally been a daunting experience for them to be able to provide the education needed by our kids, especially when, it seems like state government has moved the goalpost several times throughout this last year. And by that, I mean, we've had start dates and stop dates, and we've had a lot of changes and so forth. But I think, our community is not unique to the problems. You could say that because we are a rural community, we might be disadvantaged. But my hats go to the school district, the teachers, the educators for going above and beyond what has been necessary to educate our kids. As far as the technology is concerned, our kids have had Chromebooks for a number of years, and we've had access to district-wide Wi-Fi connections. So I don't believe that we have an issue with that at all. If we do, it's probably it's probably very rare. But the distance learning aspect, I think, what can we say? We're doing the best that we can, and only time will tell. With my son being a freshman, depending on how long this goes, and as he gets further along in his high school education, only time will tell at the time of graduation how it impacted him. I think as parents, it's important for us to be able to find ways to beef up or back up the educational process with our kids, and not just rely on those teachers, not just rely on the fact that we have a kid in front of a computer and that's it, that's going to educate them. No, we have to find ways to be able to support our teachers, just like we should have been doing all these years, even before the pandemic. Because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that the education, it's not just up to the teacher. It's up to us as parents, first and foremost. We had these kids, we brought them into the world. The education starts with them. And so right now, more than ever, is when we need parents to step up. And I know it's very difficult, especially in our Latino community. Farm worker parents, like the ones that I work with every day, their primary focus is to put food on the table. They're out there working every day, and I think that the last thing that they want to have to worry about is an education. But this is probably the one time in our history when we just need everybody to step up more and more than ever before. So I hope I answered that question, but I think we're doing okay.
Definitely. I feel like you're right on the point when it comes to parents stepping up and taking charge with that distance learning and making sure the kids are applying themselves just as much as if they were in class. So I think you answered that really well. So I would like to ask you, how can the Tulare County League of Mexican American Women help the community of Woodlake?
Well, I believe that there's probably always opportunity. One of the things that I think makes Woodlake such a unique place is, yes, we're small, but we're very supportive of one another. And this goes back decades. Whether you've served on a service club or, you are a family that takes time every year to put together a Thanksgiving feast for those that are in need. There are a lot of people in this community that help and that serve the community in different ways. So all you need to do is have the ganas to do it, and find a need somewhere and fill that need. It may be as simple as helping at the local food pantry to assemble boxes for those that need the services, or writing a check to help support our annual Thanksgiving feast, which we have a family that does a very good job of it and has done an extremely great job of it for years. Nobody asked them to do it, but I think part of it is staying in contact and communication. I don't know if any of you ladies live in Woodlake or have a direct contact with people in Woodlake, but sometimes we just say, if you want to help, just come on down, get to know us, and you'll find that we do have certain needs, but we also have a lot to offer. And whether we can be helpful to other communities, we're good neighbors. We believe in helping, whether you're from Three Rivers or Elderwood or Seville, which coincidentally are cities that feed into Woodlake. We're always there for each other. But you're going to find that there are a lot of unsung heroes, people that don't care that that they are out there helping. So don't be surprised. But there are a lot of people out there behind the scenes that are helping, and it just starts with identifying a need, and the way you identify that is just to spend time in our community, talk to folks in the town. It doesn't have to be me. You don't have to talk to me. You can talk to folks in service clubs. You can talk to the people that serve on the parent advisory board for the schools. Those types of organizations have always been helpful. But the city's always done a really good job with volunteerism, and I think that that's what has made us so unique. And quite frankly, I always love to brag about this, but we have some of the lowest crime rates per capita anywhere in the county of Tulare. And you might think it's because we have a great law enforcement department, great cops, but the reality of it is that a lot of the credit goes back to the community. It's parents, doing their job as parents. It's neighbors keeping an eye out for what's going on in the community. And I'm an elected official, and as a mayor of the town, I'm sure a lot of people think that I'm responsible for so many things, but I always give the credit back to everybody else because I'm just a catalyst. I sit at the dais and I help make laws, local laws, along with my colleagues, but it's people on the street that make the hard work happen. So hope that answers your question.
Definitely. We will definitely look into that. I know our community service committee has talked about reaching out and finding things to do in the city of Woodlake. So I know that's definitely something we can do in the future. So we'll be around. We'll be around. So yeah.
I will extend this to you as an invitation. The city council meets every second and fourth Monday of the month, and obviously, because of the pandemic, we've been meeting virtually for a number of months now. But we do our best as council members to talk about things that are happening in the community and keep people connected. So I will tell you, please join us at our next council meeting. It's the second and fourth Monday, and they start at 6:30 p.m. Log on to our webpage at cityofwoodlake.com. You can download a copy of the agenda, and you'll see that there are a number of people that come and they just come to listen as they do in person in the past. But if you ever have an opportunity and you want to speak about something that you're working on in the community, you want to keep us abreast, we also ask that you do that. Just participate, let us know. Again, we're happy to have you around, and we're happy that that you are working in Tulare County. I've known of your organization for a number of years, and I know you've had changes, but I think it's important to just re-energize and remind everybody that you're around. So please feel free to join us anytime.
Thank you. We definitely will. We'll look into that. And if we have any new updates or information, we'll let you know. And I thank you for that invitation.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor, for allowing us to have your morning, and that you're gracious enough to answer our questions and respond to the community. And yes, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight or this morning.
Absolutely. And I have to admit, I was expecting somebody to ask me some hard questions, and I think I appreciate you taking the time to do so. But I want you to know that one of the things that I've always expressed to my community members is, if you ever are in doubt or you want to know what's going on, the best way that you can help as an organization is have folks call us. I am one of the few council members that for over 10 years now has always publicized my email and my personal cell phone number because I grew up in this town. And as an elected official, I think you can appreciate this. The higher up that you go on the ladder of public service, the harder it is for folks on the street to be able to get a hold of you, whether it's the president or a member of Congress. I think that if you are a city council member, there is absolutely no reason why a member of the community should never, ever be able to talk to you or speak to you. And that's why I always give out my number. That's why I always give out my email. And that's why I always take the time to talk to people on the street. And I think that, if you want to help, then I would just ask you, please remind people, if you need some information or you just want to yell at somebody, believe it or not, I'm open to that too. But at the end of the day, I do tend to get people calmed down a little bit, and it's because I'll listen, but I also try to offer my perspective, and it is about respect. This is how we make communities like Woodlake work. It's about respect. Doesn't matter what your ideology is, what your political preference is. You always have to remember where you came from, and I've never forgotten that. My wife and I, we've been married for 25 years. We both came from similar backgrounds. Our parents have been farm workers and taught us how to work in the fields and how to build a business. And we've never forgotten that. And so that's why I think we are rooted in respect, and we're people of service. And I know you hear that a lot from elected officials. But I'm not bragging. You just have to talk to people in the community, and you'll quickly find out that we do work very well together. So thank you for your time. I know I can get a little verbose, but I'm very proud of what we do in the community, and I just thank you so much for your time, for reaching out, and for wanting to learn about us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that concludes our little sit down, and I appreciate it. And we will definitely be posting and sharing with our members in the community, and we'll post this on social media.
Great. Thank you. You all have a wonderful week.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
You as
you.
well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.